All right, we are to our final video of the week. And I know we've covered so much. So we're going to keep this short in part because I don't want to get into all of the biochemistry of it. So we're going to keep it broad. But let's talk about what these innate immune cells are going to do to actually eliminate their pathogens. We have seen that there's a problem. Pattern recognition receptors on the innate immune cells have found a PAMP, they've seen it, they've interacted with it, they found a DAMP, they screamed. They screamed for help. Those cytokines alerted all the cells around them. Those cytokines also started the process of convergence by opening up the blood vessels, making them leaky so that complement and all that fluid would fly in. That the cytokine types of, or the chemokine types of cytokines went to mobilize the reserves. Then the combination of those cytokines and chemokines induced selectins so that the white blood cells would slow down, even more chemokines to get them ready to stop by triggering the integrins on the white blood cell to get them to stop or to prepare to stop. And then the integrins, ICAM interaction got them to stop, and then transmigrate, actually leave the blood. They are now there, they are in the tissue. How are we going to actually get them to kill the pathogens? We want these things dead. We're very briefly going to talk about 4 ways that innate immune cells can kill pathogens. And different innate immune cells kill in different ways. But we're going to sort of keep it a little bit simpler and say that the main job of macrophages is phagocytosis. Macrophages actually do that recognition, alerting, they get to where they need to be. But then macrophages are all about eating the enemy. They will, when they have found a pathogen, and they recognize a pathogen in the same way, kind of with pattern recognition receptors, they'll bind on, and they will literally surround and digest the pathogen. Phagocytosis. Neutrophils, their main job or their main weapon is going to be degranulation. These are shooting these kind of toxic pellets. Neutrophils are filled with these little granules, these little pouches inside a cell. And when they find a pathogen, they release them. And these pouches, these granules are filled with all sorts of chemicals and proteins that literally just destroy. We talked about antimicrobial peptides and stuff and all of these other proteins. These are even stronger. These are going to do some damage. Another way to do damage is actually not with like granules full of protein. And both macrophages and neutrophils use this to some extent, reactive oxygen species. If you've ever had a cut, you might have tried to clean it with hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide interacts with proteins and kind of breaks them down. Well, pathogens are proteins. Even viruses have protein coats. So the release of these reactive oxygen species, the release of essentially this hydrogen peroxide from neutrophils or macrophages, will actually destroy the pathogen as well. Neutrophils also have this awesome way of capturing pathogens known as nets. Neutrophil extracellular traps. Essentially, neutrophils literally vomit out their DNA. This is like Spider-Man, literally. They like are covered with this net of DNA then. And then obviously the pathogen can't do a lot when it's literally covered in a net of gooey DNA. And other cells will clearly recognize that this is evidence of both a PAMP and a DAMP, and will eliminate it, often by phagocytosis, kind of cleaning up the mess. So I guess the nets are in a way, well, it's neutrophils that are throwing out their DNA. They then often work with macrophages who come along and say, hey, thanks for, keeping them set for me, trapping them. I will take care of eating them. As I said, there is a ton of chemistry around all of this. We are not going to go into too much depth, but I just want you to have a sense of what the end game is once we actually get to the pathogen. The complicated part is really getting there. Once it's there, you eat it, you shoot it and destroy it. You basically kind of chemical burn it to death, or you trap it and allow somebody else to eat it later. Yay, short video after some long ones.